Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We are thrilled that you have chosen to spend a little time with us in a live edition, Connecting the Dots with Dr. Hughes. I am Charlie Arnott, CEO of the Center for Food Integrity, and at CFI, we are committed to helping today's food system build trust by giving you insights on the topics that are shaping today's food. Now, for a global perspective on that, we have the benefit of our good friend, Dr. David Hughes, Professor Emeritus at Imperial College of London. David is fresh off a world tour that would make U2, Elton John, and the Rolling Stones envious. So, David, welcome home and welcome to the program.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been an odyssey. London, Frankfurt, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Melbourne, Santiago, Chile, then to Brasilia, then into a city you won't know, and then on to Sao Paulo, and then back home to long-suffering Susan. So no, the most peculiar, the strangest feeling was I left Melbourne, for example, on a Saturday at 1 p.m. I had a 13-hour flight to Santiago and arrived there 2 hours before I left, which is a testament, of course, to the international date line. It's great fun, really.
It is. It is. Well, we have some photos from your trip. We will share those because there's some intriguing stories that go with those. So,
And so there I was in a cattle ranch in Mato Grosso, which is the largest state in Brazil. It's bigger than Texas, for goodness sake. And here on the right of me is a lovely woman in her 30s, if I'm allowed to mention age. And she and a sister own and manage a cattle ranch with 15,000 cattle. They also grow in separate farms soy, cotton, and corn, as you would call it, corn to feed the cattle. Boy, she was doing a good job. It was just so absolutely brilliant. And she was on a mission to show the Europeans who were with me going round the ranch that she knew all about the environmental requirements of getting a product into Europe. At the same time, it was scary how efficient her operation was, and I could see they were shaking in the boots, the Europeans.
good for her.
Frankly, sort of brilliant. There you can see the cowboys and the horses, and I really love the fact that just like Texas, actually, when they're rounding up cattle in Brazil, then it's horses and cowboys and drones
Yeah.
with some dogs to help out as well. So brilliant stuff. And clearly it worked really well. And where was the ranch? It was in the middle of nowhere. We had to drive, it was 4 hours from
Oh,
where we
wow.
were. And I saw nothing between the city and the 4 hour drive. Fabulous.
Very impressive. And then the truck?
Yes, so there we go, and that's the flame tree. So they were their partner was was Marfrig, which is one
Yep.
of the huge Brazilian meat processors, and no, so that was just. What's more, we had a PowerPoint presentation in the middle of nowhere from that lovely woman, just explaining exactly what she was doing. No, it was brilliant.
Very impressive. Very
There we are.
impressive.
And of course, it's Brahman cattle, which you will have some, of course, won't you, Charlie, in the hotter parts of the US? But
A few will have some Brahman cross, but not many, not many. We see those again in Australia and other parts of the world, but not as many for livestock in terms of meat producing animals in the US.
yes, yeah,
Not
right.
nearly as prevalent. Well, excellent, David. We are thrilled that you are back. Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to get on with our conversation. We are live today again, so if you have questions, you can drop those in the Q&A or the chat. We're happy to get to those. We're going to talk about events happening around the world and in the UK. Let's start by talking about the key issues that were on the minds of folks in food and agriculture that you encountered in your travels around the world. Let's kick it off with Australia and Brazil.
Right, and you won't be surprised, Charlie, that it was all about international trade and tariff wars, frankly. But in Australia and Brazil, perhaps you'll be surprised, there was plenty of smiley faces. Why so? Because both Australian and Brazilian beef exports to China have seen a great sort of leap upwards.
Yeah.
And what's more, a double benefit for Brazil was that their soy exports to China have just rocketed upwards. Why? Well, you'll know why. It was because of the spat between the USA and China on tariffs. Mind you, I note just as I was just coming back to the UK, that so late in October, there was a meeting between President Trump and President Xi, and President Trump scored that meeting. It was well covered in the European papers as 12 out of 10. He was very pleased with himself and the overall meeting. Well, let's wait and see what the outcome is because, 1 minute it looks really good and then suddenly, oops, there's a transgression. So we'll see. But Aussie and Australian and Brazilians are very happy for their bonus exports. But irrespective, in Asia, it doesn't matter where I go, everyone is concerned about the instability and the chaos associated with international tariffs. So agribusiness and food companies, they're on sort of tenterhooks. They're
Hmm.
reluctant to press on with new initiatives. Say, well, we know what we want to do, but we don't want to do it now in case there's a big change. So everything seems out of balance. And as I say, that was writ large throughout my 1 month stay away.
Yeah, not surprising considering the state of the industry. And it'll be fascinating to see once supply chains are restructured to source materials from other countries, would they come back to the US once the trade issues are resolved? So only time will tell on that because it can be very difficult to restructure a supply chain once it has been altered. Okay,
Yeah.
so your talks during your world tour focused on the meat industry and
Right.
trends that are happening. So this is fascinating. What's top line for the meat industry globally?
Right. Well, it's good news. I mean, market volumes for all the major meats, so that's beef, pork, chicken, and lamb, not that that's a big deal for you, over the last 12 years, all of them have increased. And even though there's been pushback against meat, read much
Right.
of the papers, you think we're all sort of turning vegetarian. Not so, clearly. But actually, the fact of the matter is, certain globally and in almost every market I look at, it's driven by chicken. So 12 years ago, Charlie, then pork would be the most popular in terms of amount of the big meats that were consumed. Now, far and away, it's chicken. And actually, beef and pork consumption is just drifting lower in many parts of the world, particularly and perhaps strangely in the higher income countries.
Hmm.
Actually, in Asia, in lower income, they still want to eat more meat, but for them, of course, the constraint will just be enough income to do so. And from a chicken perspective, as I was telling the beef and pork guys, we are far from peak chicken. I mean, peak chicken has got a long way to go in terms of growth, and it will take global market share from the red meats. And I know that's so. Uh, and I think sort of what else was I talking about? I was talking about the generational shifts. I mean, there's few advantages to being ancient as I am, Charlie, but at least I can reflect on four generations: my mum's, mine, my children, and my grandchildren, who are now getting into their early 20s. And my mother's idea of convenience was sliced bread, and she felt sort of slightly guilty about buying it. Uh, well, what about Generation Z, my grandchildren? As I told the lot to their surprise, I think my grandchildren would be as likely to go to a zoo as they are to go to a supermarket to buy a pack of chilled meat. And why is that? Because they'll want to buy the meal or a mini meal or a snack
Right.
rather than an ingredient to make a meal. They don't even know what an ingredient is. And there's an issue then because that adds another link in the chain for producers through to consumer. And we're trying to make it closer, but that's driving it further. So chicken often becomes the default meat. And is that just for mollycoddled, prosperous Westerners? No, I spend 2 weeks in Asia, but I'm often in Asia, for goodness sake. And in Asia, lower income families are very, very likely to get their meals from low price street food vendors. I met a lovely couple who weren't low income. They were both middle managers, successful working in Vietnam. They'd got two kids, and I asked them, "Who does the cooking of an evening?" And they looked at me sort of quizzically and then said, "Oh, the meal in the evening. We use Grab, Grab. And Grab is the Asian equivalent of DoorDash. So every single night of the week, they will order in a meal
Mhm.
from a little restaurant that they know and trust. And the sort of concept of cooking for them is sort of extraordinary. I mean, I notice in Singapore, they're starting to sort of just remove the kitchen, for goodness sake. So, things are changing. And sometimes that's sort of threatening, if you will. So overall, meat consumption shows no signs of slowing down, notwithstanding the pushbacks. And I was taken by October 3 in Sweden, the Eat Lancet Commission. I'm not sure if that gets much coverage in the
It
US.
does, or it has historically. This one, not as much.
Well, it was published at the beginning of October. So it's their report on healthy, sustainable, and just food systems. And as you know, the chairman of the Eat Lancet Commission is, famous in the world, actually, Professor Walter Willett, who's the most senior professor of medicine and nutrition in Harvard University. Well, the Eat Lancet Commission's planetary diet, which they're pushing hard, is for us to eat, wait for it, 4 ounces of meat per week. 4 ounce total. That's total for all meats, 4 ounces per week. I note that the USDA My Plate recommendation. So, what's their view? It should be 5 ounces per day. That's
Right.
per day. And so, if I look at current US meat consumption, if anybody took any notice of the Eat Lancet Commission, it would require you in the US to cut to 5% of your existing meat consumption levels. Now, as I say, it gets a lot of attention, but it was, you can imagine, with the meat industry I was working, it was being dismissed out of hand, needless to say. But my view, no. I mean, that's sort of really 5 ounces a week, never.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what that's about. But they're trying to make a statement, but it doesn't ring true to me.
It does not, and protein's having a moment, and
Yes, it is.
not just in the U.S. but globally. And so the
Yes.
likelihood of those recommendations having a material impact is extremely low. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that conversation evolves. Okay, final topic for the day. We've taken a look globally at a variety of issues. Let's focus now on what's happening in the UK, where farmers, often as they do, are feeling like they're being shortchanged.
Yes, yeah. Well, God love us in the UK. I mean, I noticed survey work again done in October. It shows that the UK is more expensive to live in. I'm not talking food just at the moment. The UK is more expensive to live in than most other European countries. Actually,
Hmm.
Denmark, Luxembourg, and Ireland are more expensive overall than us, but we're right up there towards the top of the league. And that just reflects, particularly in the UK, we've got very high energy costs, that our mortgage rates are very high. And so coming to the UK, it costs you a lot to live here. On the other hand, our food prices are the lowest in Western Europe.
Wow.
And our food prices are very similar to the level of food prices in Eastern Europe, which in those countries which are much lower income than us. And so, what does that reflect? Well, we're extraordinarily competitive retail market in the UK. We don't have regional markets as you do. It's a national market. We've got 8 pretty big players who are at each other's necks every week, and they're just pushing prices down, which is sort of brilliant for consumers at one level. But what do farmers think? Well, they're incandescent with rage. They say they're trusted and they're respected for their expertise and competence, but they just can't get a premium for local food, and they think that's really unfair. I mean, you'll be interested. We're interested with the Centre for Food Integrity type stuff. The Trustworthy League survey has just been published in the UK for 2025. At the top, no surprise perhaps, are doctors in the UK, much
Hmm.
trusted, but then right under them are farmers, then scientists, teachers, nutritionists. Supermarkets actually are well trusted, but they're well beneath farmers. Government agencies struggle, but down the bottom, no surprise perhaps, journalists and politicians.
Yeah.
And but there's sort of good news. I've been talking to farmers this week, actually, and saying, look, Generation Z, the under 30s, show a strong and growing interest in farming and food.
Hmm.
And for my mind, that probably reflects to a degree the Clarkson effect, as we would call it, reflecting the hugely popular Clarkson's Farm series of programs, which are on Amazon, streamed by Amazon anyway. But UK farmers are saying, look, we get all this trust, but there's no payoff to us.
Right.
So, why? And I think I know why, or can make a go at it. I mean, first of all, people are short of income right now, and so they'll go for the cheapest. Say, sorry, Britain, we'd like to buy a product, but we're going to go for the cheapest. And in the UK, we've had a huge history of importing for centuries, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Lamb from New Zealand for 150 years, bacon from Denmark for over 100 years. So, we trust them. We trust the foreign producers of food. Why wouldn't we? They've been supporting us for years. Thirdly, we're eating more processed meals now. Now they don't. That doesn't mean they're ultra processed, but so we're processed meals where the food we don't sort of ask for the provenance. We're eating the meal, and we don't say, "Oh, by the way, where did the meat in this meal come from?" That isn't our number one concern. Just as if you're buying a protein bar, for example, Charlie, we don't say, tell me again where each of the ingredients come from, and particularly the dairy. No, we just we pass over that. And because our diets are becoming more international, when we elect to have an international meal, then we like to have authentic ingredients, just like in the US, actually. We love Italian food, and often, particularly at the top end of the market, say, and make sure the ingredients come from Italy. And also
Hmm.
international diets, whether it be Asian or Indian or whatever, they're built around strong sources. And as a result of that, it doesn't really matter what the species of meat is in there. And often
Right.
the default meat, if you will, is chicken. So, I understand the farmer's point of view, but it's tough trucking for them, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. So, David, any final thoughts before we wrap up here today?
Well, I mean, first of all, of course, you've got Thanksgiving come up, which is a mega for the food industry and for food consumers, of course. And good on you, and happy Thanksgiving when it comes. But for us, no, the day before, I think November 26th is our budget day in the UK, and that's when government sets out its sort of financial policy for the next 12 months. And those of a certain income, which includes me, are very apprehensive because we sense it's going to mean higher taxes. But if you'll join us in December, I'll tell you exactly what the score is come the first Thursday in December.
Sounds great. Well, David, thank you as always. Welcome back. Thanks to everybody who's chosen to join us this morning for a live edition of Connecting the Dots with Dr. Hughes. We will be back with you on December the 4th. So join us for the fastest 15 minutes in food at that day. David, thank you. Good luck on tax day, and we'll talk to you in December.
Thanks, Charlie. Onwards. Bye
Take care,
now.
everyone. Bye bye.